All right. I'm writing a movie. Hello, everyone. This is my film pitch. It's going to be great. So there's going to be a film. It's about a dad and his son. Mm-hmm. And then every conversation that is ever uttered in the film is just ass, pussy, fart, dick, shit, cock, doo-doo pants, poop, fart.
Oh, so it's Borderlands. We did that last week, though.
Hold on. Yeah, no, wait, you might be right.
Fuck. It'd be weird that it happened twice in 2 weeks, but what if it happened twice in 2 weeks?
If I had a nickel for every time this happened, I'd have 10 cents. And that's not a lot of nickels, but...
Welcome to Rough Cuts.
Dogs. They're coming. They're coming your way. They'll be here soon.
Hey, they're the dog people, aren't they?
Bye, Rich.
You're not dying, Frank!
Go on, partner. It's tequila o'clock. I've never understood what it is you actually sell.
The banana, the cucumber.
Robocock. Don't tell her you love her. Show her. It's all about dominating your rival, slapping your cock about.
So why the wig?
You look more like my ex-wife. Oh. It's called parenting.
You're my parents. Kind of hard to tell with you, isn't it?
Oh, Sam.
These are precious years for him. You're going to regret not being part of them.
Now, if you don't mind, I have to go and drink until I fall over.
My ex got his act together when he thought he was dying.
The worst thing is you'd actually have to say, if that is the first thing that happened in the last 2 weeks, you'd have 2 nickels.
Yeah.
Because the problem is, it's happened a lot.
Hi. It's happened a lot, yeah.
Hi, this is Rough Cuts. It's our podcast about good boys and bad movies, where we talk about a bad dog movie and then rate the dog at the end of it. I'm Ilian, and this is my co-host, Boix.
Hello. So this movie's called Down Dog. It has a dog, and there's a dog on the cover.
Yeah, and you picked it because of that, and I don't know why. Because
I put it on the list of movies that we could potentially watch.
This really seemed like a bad thing for you to have picked as a movie for us to watch.
Uh-huh.
But I guess that's what you'd like to do.
Wow.
So
Okay, I see how.
Well, it wasn't my turn because we had Borderlands last week, which was from the fans, and we do things for the fans.
Anyways, this could have been a wild card. This literally could have been anything, because the trailer, what little of it we saw, and the description of this movie is basically nothing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then you watch the film and you're like, oh, it's basically nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's more than basically nothing, but
there's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack here.
I think that's the biggest problem, yeah.
That is the biggest problem. The thing for me was, you're right, I will admit, I picked this movie. I will, in my defense, though, you did give me a choice, and you gave me 2 movies that were known quantities, and one that's a wild card. Mm-hmm. And I always pick the wild card, because my hit rate is like 10%.
Because you're like the Always Sunny scene where he's like, wild card, and then jumps out the truck. Or the van or whatever.
But my hit rate is like 10%, but my hits are like Easy Money and Bracelet of Bordeaux, which are some of the best movies we've ever seen in this podcast. Mm-hmm. And we just don't talk about the misses, except that we have to talk about the misses because that's the point of the podcast.
Yeah, it's the highest highs and the lowest lows, to be honest. And
yeah,
this is a low.
I mean,
this is a low.
But we do know what this movie is about.
Can you give us a synopsis of Down Dog?
Down Dog is about a man who turned himself into a dildo and is trying to not let his ex-wife turn him into a pet dog. And his life is very disorganized, but his son needs him, so he's struggling.
Insert the interview of the man talking about what it's about. I'm just going to insert that here.
This interview is fucking So this is a director, Andres Dussan, or Dussan. I don't know how you pronounce it.
I guess Dussan because he's very French in this interview.
this is the only movie he's ever directed. But he's a director, producer, writer. He does everything. And his interview is so fucking weird. And also, I did link you a second interview, which I have not watched. That one has 9 views. This came out in 2014.
Oh, boy.
The one I did link you had 200 views. So this is breaking ground for this podcast of something that literally nobody has heard of.
Again. Yeah.
But this one should have been buried.
I think that a lot of the actors and writers and stuff involved in this wish it was. One of the most telling things from that first interview for me was him going, well, we got the writer for Men Behaving Badly, and that let us get a lot of talent. And I was like, yeah, you tricked a lot of people into this. No, there's actually like real actors in this.
There's some actors, sure. I don't think they're doing very well acting.
No, not in this, because why would you?
Yeah.
Like, think about, can you imagine putting actual work into this shit? Right? Like, I don't blame any of them for not caring about it once they actually get the script and they're stuck into it. Like, but it very much felt telling of like, oh, well, we managed to trick some actual talent into working on our movie.
What I noticed immediately listening to that interview, when you do a project, so a comic book, a movie, a podcast,
yes,
you have to have an elevator pitch. If you're getting interviewed in a film festival, this was Sundance Film Festival, where that interview's from, you have to have an elevator pitch. And it sounded like the director was just coming up with the pitch on the spot.
His
he had no idea how to direct.
No, if he gives me that as an elevator pitch, I'm trying to get a crowbar and pry open the doors so I can get out.
But you're stuck in the elevator.
I'm like,
he won't stop talking.
Please let me out. I'm hitting the emergency stop and like pulling my way out. Like I'm going through the roof.
Like, what does he mean? A man who turned himself into a dildo? What does that mean?
I'm pulling myself out of the top of the elevator as you're saying this. I'm trying to leave. I'm throwing myself bodily from the car. This is my Uber driver making this pitch, and I'm like desperately trying to open the back doors, and then I realize the locks are gone.
That it's a very funny movie with a very funny scene where there's a dildo fight.
Is there a particular scene that was most entertaining for you to film yourself?
I think the dildo fight definitely is. It was a very funny, and it just represents what usually sometimes men get into. This like trying to impose our will into other men and force our dick into other men's, and so it's a very funny, Sonny.
What does that mean? What is he talking about?
It means that he's a monster. We just watched this movie. It's about him being a monster and and thinking that all other men think like him and they're all monsters. At least
it's gotta be.
He eventually, at the end of this movie, has enough self-reflection finally to be like, wait, does this guy need therapy? Because that's the final scene, is him getting therapy at the request of his wife again.
Now current wife, his new current wife. I'm confused about that though, because ending the movie on men really need therapy, and they do all this shit because they don't go to therapy, is supposed to be the punchline. It's not him realizing that men need therapy.
You're right. Yeah,
it's him being like, isn't it funny that he went to therapy?
Yeah, you're right. So
I'm like, they didn't unpack anything.
Yes. I have a note on that I want to talk about briefly. So so here's the movie. The movie is in brief synopsis in a lot of ways, or at least like the start of this movie and how it kicks off, is that there is a man. Oh God. I mean, we need to talk about the way the movie intros, but I'm going to skip that for now. And this guy essentially is a gigantic piece of shit, works at a sex toy company, and treats everyone like fucking toys for his pleasure. He's a party boy alcoholic, and his ex-wife talks to their shared doctor
I guess they kept the same family doctor for some reason.
Yeah, briefly confides in said family doctor that she wishes that he was more self-reflective and like that he had a wake-up call, something like a scare in his health to make him think about how he was living his life. And that doctor takes this as, she wants to fuck me, so I'm going to tell him that he's dying. And
because he treats women like objects.
Yes. And my note on that is, so the doctor, the joke, in the most quotations I can do, is that he constantly is like turning his picture of his family away when he's talking to her because it makes him feel guilty because he wants to fuck her.
Yeah.
And my note on that was, thinking about this movie, the doctor is essentially caring and compassionate and a shoulder to cry on for her and is listening to her. And in the writer's mind, that immediately is, oh, wait, no, caring, compassionate people all have ulterior motives.
Right, he only is faking being interested because he wants to have sex with her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's all people in this movie that ever show any care or compassion for anyone else. The coffee shop lady just wants to fuck the guy. Like, everything is...
His boss can't, like, just spend time talking to him because it's gay.
Yeah, everybody,
like that, I guess.
Nobody that shows any amount of caring or emotion actually means it. They all have ulterior motives of what they want. And the writer-director has not figured out what this says about themselves personally at any point. That's my biggest takeaway from this movie.
In that same interview, by the way, that director is saying something like, I wanted to make this movie because I've met so many men like this in my life.
Yes, I was going to talk about that.
And they're sad and they're struggling, and I wanted to show them that they can do better. But he hasn't gotten to the end of that thread, which is that it's also him.
Yeah, and also, how are you meeting this many men that are like this? How is every person that you meet like this?
Yeah.
It's maybe because you're hanging out with some real fucking shitheads, dude.
It's maybe because you're looking for people that are like you.
Yes.
and there's no self-reflection.
Just doing nothing but going to clubs and meeting sad, lonely, divorced dads. Which is... Oh, this is the most Elon-coded movie.
This is definitely an Elon Musk movie. Like, Grimes isn't coming back, my man.
Yeah, no. She's gone.
You can move on with your fucking life, please. Or you could buy Twitter. I don't know. Whatever makes you feel better, I guess. Did it make you feel better? Are you better? Elon Musk, who's listening to our podcast right now.
Has it fixed you?
Anyways, the opening of this movie is fucking weird, too.
It's so... Yes, like, that's why I'm like, we got to go back and talk about that.
It's 10 minutes of us not knowing who the main characters are, what's happening, jumping around.
It was more than that. It was 11. I timed it when I asked you for the time. It was 11 minutes.
It's a long time. Yeah, because it starts with we find out later, the ex-wife masturbating, which is just a shock opening.
I don't know that it was her. You're saying it has to be, but all we see is like the back of a couch and a leg, so there's no real identification.
But this is just a classic, like, we're going to a film festival, let's shock the audience.
Yeah.
Yes. There's no other point to the scene.
No, of course not. That's why I'm saying it doesn't have to be her. It doesn't matter if it's her. You don't know if it's her even by the end of the movie. But it's just a woman masturbating. Haha, women masturbate.
It sets the mood of like gross college comedy, which is what the director keeps saying this movie is. But it's not. No. This is just a sad, depressing look at very insecure men.
Yes. This is like National Lampoon's Van Wilder goes to therapy but doesn't understand why. That's what this is. Like, there's a brief bit of like, wait, should I self-reflect every like 20 minutes in this movie? And then the answer is immediately, nah.
Like, I could self-reflect, but you know what's better than that? What if we drank and had parties with women?
Yep.
It's tequila o'clock.
It's like if Fred Flintstone was in the modern age.
So it starts with her masturbating, and then it just does credits.
Well, it cuts to credits, and then it cuts to Frank, who we find out is a main character later.
And they don't introduce his name either. It's just a guy.
He's just saying, I'm going to unalive myself, and then falls out a window.
Yes, well, his ex-wife is like,
okay.
no, this woman is like, you're not going to die, Frank. And he goes, no, I'm dead. I don't want to waste away. And he throws himself out a window.
And then it's like 2 weeks prior. So the rest of the movie, from this point on, is 2 weeks of time.
Holy shit, it is so wild that it's 2 weeks. If it was 2 years, it would be weird.
I can't believe they set this up as 2 weeks.
It's fucked. It's so fucked up.
And then it hard cuts from there to a kid being dropped off at school, who we also haven't met, and another kid being dropped off, who we also haven't met. And they're acting like they know each other, and then it hard cuts somewhere else, and it's like, what is happening?
Like, I think that it hard cuts to them at the sex toy thing.
Maybe?
I don't even remember all of the cuts here, because they're all just so nonsensical.
It's like the dad that fell out the window picks up his son, and they drive home from a party, and then he's being a dick to his ex, and then it cuts to like some other bullshit. None of this has to do with anything.
And you can't hardly tell that they're the same people at first, because again, you've only seen them very, very briefly. No one said their names. They've hardly talked. And a lot of the times, like you were saying, they came home from a party, so it was like dark and like lots of people moving and stuff. So you're like, wait, is this the same guy? What?
None of these characters have names yet.
No.
We haven't seen them interact in a human way.
Also, when you're saying that they get picked up together, like the two school kids, isn't this the one where he starts just immediately slagging off his daughter? Right?
Right, yeah. So
it is that.
There's the daughter that the son who got dropped off at school is friends with, but doesn't want to get with. But they're really into each other the whole film, even though they never do.
Yeah.
For some reason, I guess breaking tropes. I don't know what the fuck they were doing there.
Who knows?
And then her dad, who we find out later is Frank's boss,
offers to give them a ride.
And then he berates his daughter for dressing like a sex worker.
Yes, and not those words.
Yes. But the classic conservative, like, what are you wearing bullshit.
Yep, including, like, and we're not talking he's kind of shitty about it. Like, when he's dropping them off, he lets them out of the car, and he starts screaming out slurs out the car window at all of the school children.
Yup. And this isn't seen as a problem of the dad being weird necessarily.
Not really.
Like the daughter's like embarrassed. Don't get me wrong, but it's not displayed as like his actions are the problem. It's that he's complaining specifically that it's the clothing. Like there's no introspection there about like maybe it's you, man.
I don't know. It's so hard to tell because it feels like it's both, because it's like, wow, this guy's a shithead, and it really tries to drill it home that he's a shithead, but at the same time, it's also like, oh, but maybe it's her fault too, and it's like, no.
They have the conversation later where the daughter's like, hey, everybody in my school fucking dresses like this, fuck you, but they never resolved that. It's just kind of left like, well, maybe he's right.
Yes, because they also then imply that he's right because she gets an STD.
Yes.
And so they're like, oh, see, look, she is, And
then she feels bad because he's been calling her these words, and now that she has an STD, she feels like she is that. And it's like, this whole fucking thing is so confusing in what message they were trying to send.
It feels very... I mean, so this director is very French, in the interview, it felt like. And I mean, Andres Dussan, so I'm guessing that he's French.
I think
he had an accent.
I think I was reading that he's from like Chile or something, and he's lived in Canada. So I don't know. Maybe
Oh, so he might be French Canadian then.
he might be French Canadian.
Oh God! Oh no! I apologize. I'm so sorry if this is.
It might be that. I'm not sure.
But it feels like raunchy, like college comedy by way of French art house is like what he's going for. Except, boy, does it not fucking work.
And then it cuts from that. If
Yes.
this sounds like this is confusing, it's because it is.
It's really confusing.
By the way, it cuts from that to
also
to the
really
ex-wife.
boring.
It's mostly boring, just like Borderlands.
Yep.
The ex-wife who was getting berated by Frank, who threw himself out of a window in the opening scene.
Yes.
Is then talking to her drunk friends at a restaurant. And her drunk friends are lamenting the fact that they can't slap and kick children anymore.
Correct, because they're all teachers.
Yeah,
and
they're
you
teachers,
know, all
and
you
they
need
think you should be able to punch kids.
Really, they're talking about how, you know, children these days, if they just got the shit kicked out of them, they'd really behave again.
Which they emphasize later because the ex-wife is talking to a kid who's checked out.
Yes.
And then he calls her a name, and then she gets mad at him and wants to hit him, and then she's like, oh, I need to be professional.
Oh, man, you can't do that anymore these days.
If only I could hit him.
If only I could just haul off and beat the shit out of this child. Then things would really go well.
So her drunk teacher friends are the ones that give her the idea to talk to the doctor, by the way. I don't know if you caught this during that scene.
Oh, I didn't, but I get
They were telling her about one of their boyfriends was being a shithead, and then he thought he was going to die, but the doctor gave him a wrong prognosis, and it was just something else. Or he, like, MD'd it or something.
Sure.
And then she's like, oh, I'll tell my doctor to tell my ex to do that. So she got this idea from her shitty friends that are drunk, lamenting about not being able to hurt children in the school anymore.
I want to, I feel like I need to say the aristocrats here to make it a joke.
And
hey, comedy!
There's no comedy. There's no comedy here, but I'm sure you can take the clip of the director saying it's a comedy, and it's very funny.
Yeah.
Every one of these scenes.
I think the dildo fight definitely is. It was a very funny.
So it hard cuts from there to the son's back at school stalking a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And his friend, who's the girl he's been talking to this whole time, walks up. He's like, what, you gay? You gay because you're stalking a girl?
Yeah, there's a lot of...
Like, what?
Oh, are you a gay guy in this? There's a lot of homophobia, which it makes better because later on the dad goes, well, it's okay if you are, though. That negates it.
Does he say that? I don't remember.
Yes, when they're under the bridge in the tent connecting.
They connect?
In 2 weeks, yes. All right, so
anyway.
he goes to the doctor. He mocks the doctor as being gay because he's metrosexual, which I don't...
Because he's clean and he has nice hair.
He doesn't even look at all, what? This dude just looks like a dude. And he's like, oh, well, you fucking, one of those gay guys, with your hair? Maybe we should just shave you bald, then you'll be a real man. That's literally a line.
And then he asked the doctor to send him pictures of him and his wife fucking.
Yes, because it'll make him not hard anymore. Because that's literally it. Because the doctor goes, "Oh well, you must be having trouble with erections because you're such an alcoholic," which he is. He is. And he goes, "No, I have trouble with erections. I have trouble because I have so many erections that I fuck so many women that they all love me too much. I need photos of your family so I can stop having erections." And so then the doctor goes, yeah, well, you're dying. How's that, motherfucker, you piece of shit? You're dying of alcoholism, you fucking garbage man. And mocks him for dying.
Emotions were high. I get it.
This movie.
But that's not a good reason to lie to the guy about being, terminally ill.
And then mock him for it? No.
Yeah. So anyway, Frank goes back to his office of dildos.
I want to spend 1/2 second it took me so long to understand that this man was a doctor because he's in, like, an office. And when I say an office, I mean, like, a cubicle-style office. Not like a doctor's office. It's super weird.
I mean, it's better than the curtain room. Like the Gary Busey curtain room.
Yes.
That happens later.
Yeah,
right?
but it's so funny how bad some of the sets are in this.
So Frank goes back to his office, his dildo company. This is a marketing company for adult toys. And their marketing is so bad that they can't get a proper design for their company logo. This is such a minor thing to nitpick, but fucking A, man.
Yeah, basically every scene that they have their logo in,
it's a new logo.
It's a slightly different logo, which is...
It fucking annoys the shit out of me.
Not good branding, you would think.
So there's a reason why their adult toy company is failing. It's recognizability. And also that they didn't go with that robot Gundam dildo idea.
Yeah, that was actually a good one. There's this weird... Again, there's like this whole have your cake and eat it too, where he wants to be like, oh, these guys obviously need therapy and they have real problems. But he also like thinks they're really cool and awesome. In that the guy who runs the company, Bill, and Frank, his subordinate, Bill is like constantly like, yo, go fuck yourself could be our marketing slogan. And all these like edgy, stupid garbage, like and it's all marketed to very obviously to like macho men is kind of how he's marketing things. And it's like, that's not who's going to buy your fucking dildos, dude.
They're marketing it to Elon Musk.
Yes, and it's like that, but that's not who's buying these dildos. It's women, and
it's women. And he's lamenting the fact that women are making sex toys. So how are men supposed to do well in the adult toy industry? And the solution is stop being a fucking idiot.
And Frank keeps on going. Well, maybe you could be just a little less sexist about all this.
Yeah.
And so, like, you're Frank, our alcoholic piece of shit, who was saying that he needed to have photos of his family doctor fucking his wife.
Prick. Yeah.
That's the dude who's more self-aware in these scenes, if you can imagine how bad this is.
Also, this movie is way out of, like, its ballpark with talking about the adult industry. It's embarrassed by adult industry, adult toys. It doesn't know that like fantasy toys exist, so it thinks that's a joke, and that obviously nobody would ever go for those. But it's like a very popular part of the industry. It's fucking weird. Anyways, Frank beats up his boss in a fist fight, in a dildo fight, which is very funny. I've heard. Because it represents what men get into. Dildo fights.
He gets into a dildo fight because his daughter comes in and he starts...
Bill's daughter.
And he starts calling her all kinds of slurs again. And, like, it's unbelievable how abusive he is. And so, honestly, in, like, one of the only good things Frank has done, he goes, hey, shut the fuck up. What the fuck is wrong with you? Which, yes, he should. But then they just start, like... When you say dildo fight, it seems like there could be humor in that, but instead it's just an actual fight where they're like just punching each other.
Seriously, yeah.
Well, and also it's way too like actual fight. Like they're not like doing slappy hands at each other. They're like beating the shit out of each other and like choking each other and slamming each other into tables and shit, which is...
You know what movie? I do not like this movie. By the way, but I think it did this type of scene better, and that is Step Brothers. Step Brothers has a scene where the two brothers fight each other, and they're like choking and punching each other in this brutal fight. And then one of them grabs his balls and sticks it on the guy's like drum set to annoy him, and they just basically try to kill each other.
Sure.
That scene is probably the only well shot scene in that whole movie, in my opinion. And that is basically this scene, but shot. In this case, way more just flat, and we're just having a fist fight. And actually, this isn't a comedy scene at all. It's just assault and battery, and there's no joke.
No. And, like, he beats the shit out of his boss by the end of it, and then handcuffs him to a table.
Yep. until he apologizes to his daughter. And he does, and then the daughter's like, well, that was the most uncomfortable fucking scene I've ever seen.
Yep.
And then we, the audience, are like, that was really fucking uncomfortable.
Yes. And weirdly enough, despite, like, his boss bleeding profusely, having the shit kicked out of him, being choke slammed into tables, and then, like, handcuffed to a table, the boss spends the rest of the movie being like, come back and work for me again.
If you do that again, I'll fire you. God.
What?
And then Frank just leaves because he's like, well, you can't fire me because I quit.
Because he thinks he's dying.
Correct. He hasn't told anybody yet.
No.
Still, by the way.
Now he decides, wait, should I have a relationship with my son?
I'm gonna die. You know, why not?
His son's like 16. Also, again, I want to emphasize what a shithead this dude is.
Mm-hmm.
In that the opening scene of him and his son that we saw in the weird montage intro with no context was him taking his son out to get fucking wasted at a nightclub.
Which is also what he does when he decides he wants to go clean.
Yes. Which is
his life.
His son is like 16. Like, they're in high school, very obviously.
Oh, yeah, he can't go drinking.
What the fuck is happening? He's just, like, constantly giving his son drugs and alcohol because I guess he wants to be cool, Dad?
They do a little weed later. It's true.
Oh, boy.
They smoke the weed. The devil's lettuce.
They smoketh the wild shit. Yeah.
Have
they
you
get
seen
that
Reefer
concrete.
Madness? Have you seen Reefer Madness? I have. It's exactly
That's
like
the documentary. Yeah. This dad absolutely thinks that mids are loud. He considers mids loud.
Well, he needs to block mids and then... Wait, what are we talking about? Anyway, this is basically just uncomfortable conversations, the movie, for the next, 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Where the dad's trying to make up with his ex-wife, Rachel, and his son. And the son's having uncomfortable conversations with his friend, who's Bill's daughter. And it's just all uncomfortable... all something I don't want to see.
Yes. And the son is going, oh man, fuck you, Dad. You left us to just go around and fuck random women at your sex toy company and drink and party all the time because you didn't want to be a dad. Which the dad actually agrees with and realizes that is exactly what he did. So anyways, in this then 2-week time span, reminder of this is where it's important.
He takes his friend out to bars.
Immediately
he tries to get him with women, and he tells him how to do pickup shit. Yeah.
Yes, his dad then starts being a pickup artist for his son at bars in the first 2 days, and they immediately bond. Over 2 days, his son goes from, Dad, I fucking hate your guts, you're a piece of shit, you left Mom and me, and you just go around and fuck random women and are an alcoholic, drunk, sexist fucker, to, well, but that's maybe cool, actually.
He's teaching his son how to harass women.
Yes.
It's supposed to be charming, I think.
Well, in one particular note that I have, because I started trying to write notes for this movie, was...
That was a tough ask even for me,
I know, it was real bad. I was like, man, I finally decided to be good and write notes, and there's nothing to write about. This movie has nothing. But he goes to a bar with his son and is telling him all about, oh, well, some women are like spiders. They just try and trap you, and shit like that. He lumps women into 3 categories of animal. And then he goes and he's like, oh, some women are either gold diggers, which is peahens when all they want is money. That's literally his thing, is you just got to show them your wallet.
Or they're lions.
Or they're spiders or they're lions, which is they want to see you bleed because they want you to fight for them. So he goes and he's like, oh, this woman, see this one at the bar? She's obviously a peahen. I'm going to go fucking get with her.
I'm going to show her my watch and my car, and she'll have sex with me.
Yeah. And then she's like, dude, you're a fucking weird, gross creep. Please, please, please go away.
But he's like, no, don't worry. my son's watching.
Yeah. You've got to try and hit on me.
This is not comedy, by the way.
No.
It's just...
And he goes, oh, you've got to hit on me so I can look good to my son. Please, I need this. I'm desperate. Oh my God, please.
I'm Elon Musk, please.
Our hero, ladies and gentlemen. And then when she turns him down because she's like, listen, I'm a lesbian. Please
I would
fucking leave me alone.
Never fuck you.
Yes. She's like, I could not in my wildest dreams even pretend to like you. And he walks away, and then he starts screaming at her from across the bar, please tell my son you're a lesbian. Not played for comedy.
This reminds me of like a Chevy Chase scene.
And like I said, I'm like, I'm glad this is his redemptive phase.
Oh no, he's trying so hard right now to not be a fucking sexist shithead.
And this is also played up as him being a good dad at this point. This is his redemption arc.
Yeah.
Fuck this movie.
Can you tell my son you're a lesbian?
Oh my God, dude. Fuck off.
I'm so glad that this is his redemptive arc.
What's he like, Amy?
He might be more of a shithead. Anyway, his son asks him why he left, and he still hasn't, Frank still hasn't wrestled with his inner demons and his inner problems. So he just says nothing and then leaves.
Correct. And then
Which is
blows
the correct
his son
way to handle that situation.
And then just starts blowing his son off at that point, like telling his son lies about where he is.
Wife and just avoiding his problems.
I can't do this.
What? Talk?
Yes, all the fucking talking, explaining myself. I just can't.
Okay, look.
I can't explain myself because every time I do, it makes me look bad, and for some reason, that has made me not self-reflect in any way.
Or I could just get a spoon and scoop out my guts.
Hey, I like that idea.
You don't have to show. What's he gonna do?
I hate this movie. He's telling this to the coffee shop woman who owns a coffee shop that he goes to.
Who is new mom.
Who he's been flirting with and hitting on. And she has inexplicably found this piece of shit, garbage, alcoholic, party boy, sexist man incredibly sexy. And so he is telling her this. He's telling her, I can't talk about my emotions because for some reason, whenever I reflect on why I do things, it makes me feel like maybe I'm a bad person. And that can't be right.
I'm the problem. That can't be right.
And she goes, yeah, that doesn't seem right. And
like she just lets him unload all of his baggage on her. And then he like asks her to help him write a letter to his ex-wife to tell her and his son why he couldn't be with them during all that time. And like, why is she doing any of this? What's her motivation?
Well, she wants to fuck him. Because he's so... Oh, man. Who wouldn't?
I mean, he probably like barefoot tippy toes down the bowling alley, right?
We should also at this point out that in every scene that we've seen this man, to clarify it, he is in two states. Either actively holding a bottle of alcohol or hungover from the night before after partying and having a bottle of alcohol. When he thinks he's dying of alcoholism.
This is after he's decided to make changes in his life.
And he's, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he hasn't.
No. Not even a little.
Like, oh, maybe the director is saying something about sad, lonely men who are alcoholics who have problems. They never actually deal with their problems. They keep drinking anyway.
Or how, insidious alcoholism is or anything.
But no, that's not what the director's saying. The director just hasn't realized that this is a problem yet.
Correct.
His character.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So Frank's letter. Let's talk about his letter that he wrote. So his letter, he gives it to his son. His son reads the letter after finding his dad drunk at a party again, because Bill invited him over to talk about their feelings. But Bill actually had an ulterior motive of wanting to get him drunk and get him back to working in the sex industry.
And get him banging women.
So then Frank says no. and then goes to the party, gets drunk, and starts banging women and getting back into the sex industry.
Yeah. As you do when you're changing your life.
So his son is talking to his friend, who is Bill's daughter, who's in the basement at the sex party. Which is just her bedroom, I guess. And they're having a conversation.
Her bedroom. You mentioned it earlier.
I guess.
Should go into it real quick here.
It's just some curtains and a bed, and it's shot the least intimate way possible.
It's very obvious when you say curtains in a bed. It's curtains surrounding a bed. It's very obviously like a big room soundstage. They were like, fuck. How do we make this a bedroom?
It sounds like a soundstage because it's echoey as fuck.
And so they just put curtains around the areas where they need to cover.
But the two of them are talking about how Bill, the daughter's father, is having sex with everyone, and we should keep talking about how much sex your dad has and how much you like to hear about your dad fucking people.
Yeah, well, they're also drinking and getting blasted, these underage kids again.
And so they go out to the party. The son sees Frank, and he's mad, and then he has to drive his drunk dad home. But he's less drunk.
He himself is also very drunk, because they showed them killing an entire bottle, these children.
Yeah, but he's not Frank drunk.
No, he's not Frank drunk. Frank is blackout. It's fucked. It's so fucked. He
gives him the letter, and the son's mad, but he reads the letter anyways that night. Mm-hmm. And then he hands it to his mom, Rachel, ex-wife.
Yeah.
And she reads it, and she starts crying. And the message in the letter is basically like, oh, you asked me why I left, and if it was because of you, son. And the answer is yes.
Yes.
It was because of you, because I couldn't handle dealing with you and your mom and having a life, like a settled down life. And I'm a real piece of shit.
Because all I really want to do is party and drink and fuck other women. And you guys wouldn't let me do that, and it just felt like a really big burden to me.
Yeah, and I realized when I keep asking out other women since then, they all look like your mom, and it's like I actually just want your mom again, but I'm too much of a piece of shit.
Yes. To which she says, he's not such a schmuck.
You know, he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, that makes him sound good.
Again, like...
He sleeps in a race car bed with a gun and a bottle of bourbon next to him, like it's...
The director is listed as a writer. I don't think he's the main writer, based on interviews.
I don't know. I don't even know.
But... to get to this point in the story and not realize that there's a problem with the statement that you are presenting and how and what it means.
Yeah.
There's no self-reflection again where I'm just like, what? How did you not realize this?
It's really weird because they keep on showing behavior from these guys that is so obviously toxic to themselves and everyone around them. And it's played in such a way that you're like, oh, they obviously realize that this is toxic and evil and horrible and destroying all the people around them and themselves. And then 5 minutes later, you're like, wait, no, they don't. Wait, how did they not? But that was obviously played for that. Like, right? It had to be. And then it keeps flip-flopping like that, and you're just constantly left in this, like, but they have to realize, right? Like, they have to. This scene is so obviously shot that this dad, like, for example, like Bill with his daughter, right? How much it's like, Bill has to be a giant piece of shit, and they have to be portraying Bill as this absolute monster man, because he's calling his daughter all of these horrible, like, slurs for sex workers and stuff. Well, he's having sex parties upstairs that his daughter can hear. So, like, obviously this is an internalized problem for Bill, where he...
I mean, I have bad news. He didn't realize it.
They don't realize it! They don't even realize it. But it's like, it's set up in such an obvious way that you're like, okay, well, obviously this is them saying that Bill is this horrible monster person. And it's like, no, I don't know that it is, actually. What?
They're like, you know what? Maybe Bill was right. That is pretty cool.
Maybe Bill is kind of cool. Fuck.
I guess. So Rachel then finds out that the doctor lied about him dying by her calling him and trying to get the medical history of her ex-husband from him. Which he does because he's flirting with her. And then she's like, no, we were just joking. There was nothing happening. No? What?
Yeah, and it was like very obviously like like she never hits on him at all. Like,
no.
His doctor is a fucking weird.
It's all in his head.
Yeah, and he has a wife and children that he has on his desk all the time.
Oh, but that's a joke. So
like,
they can flip the photo
stupid.
around. So then she tells him, look, you have to get Frank back in your office, and you have to tell him that you were wrong. This is fucked up. You can't just do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though I told you to do that. Sort of. Not to this extent.
She didn't really.
No.
And honestly, again, it was her suggestion to him was more like, God, I wish he would have a redemptive phase by, like, I don't know, having a medical scare that would make him better. And it's just her wishing it, and then he goes,
I can do that.
I can do that. And it's like, you can do that, and then you can also go to fucking prison because you're a doctor lying to do, like, how is he not getting his medical license revoked over this?
I don't know. So then, well, he almost got stabbed through with a katana.
Yeah. Oh God.
Because Frank is a sword guy. We forgot to mention that.
Yes, we forgot to mention that Frank is like when we talk about him sleeping in a race car bed and having like a gun and a bottle of bourbon next to it, and then his like late night swords that he bought while sad surfing on TV. That's just explicitly stated in this movie, and that's to show how cool he is.
And this because Frank was like quitting his job, he was selling his apartment, like he was moving out, getting all of his shit into bags. This is in 2 weeks. He's told he has a year.
Yeah. What?
But he's dropping everything. And the doc's like, by the way, it was a misdiagnosis because one of our machines is wrong. You're good. To which Frank rightfully gets mad and threatens him with a katana, which is maybe not the correct solution.
Maybe a little too far. Just get a lawyer and sue him to death.
I guess, yeah. And then the doc like lies and says that Rachel, Frank's ex-wife, made him do it, which is not correct.
Not at all. Nope.
But now Frank thinks that, even though he's not putting two and two together that this doctor is just a lying piece of shit.
Which, gee, you'd think that you'd realize that. But no, he goes, oh, that sounds like my evil, awful ex-wife. God, I wish I could fuck her again. And I wish she'd take me back. Like what?
This is the point where Frank should make a connection that maybe he needs to start dealing with his problems head on instead of just avoiding them.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, he's avoiding calls from his ex-wife.
Correct.
And tries to start making like passes and dating and working for new cafe mom.
Yeah, who again inexplicably likes him.
I guess.
Like
he's throwing away his whole thing of like trying to deal with his family and connect with his son and
yeah, and she sees this and he intimately tells her all of this. All the things that we've talked about.
He's constantly unloading his baggage on her.
And she goes, man, I can't not fuck him.
I can't not fuck him.
I bet
he could flute play the whole poke rap.
He's a dying alcoholic party boy who just fucks and degrades women constantly for his own gratification and hates his ex-wife, but only wants to have sex with women who he can insult and degrade and pretend that are his ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I wish that was me.
Man, I wish I could fuck him. So then she comes on to him as he's washing dishes at the restaurant.
Which is the most disgusting thing.
Like, I have been a dishwasher at a restaurant.
So have I.
You are greasy as fuck at the end of the day. You smell like bleach. You just are filthy.
I have never felt dirtier than doing that job, yeah.
And she is just all over him.
Yeah. Can't not fuck him.
And he pushes her away.
To be fair, he's way more disgusting on the inside than on the outside.
Oh, he's way grosser on the inside. But he pushes her away, and he's like, no, you don't want to fuck me. I'm an awful person. And
it's
then
the only good thing he does in this movie.
And then she's like, yeah, you right.
He saves her.
Make a good point. Good point. So then Frank goes back, and even knowing that Rachel apparently told his doctor to do this, He's like, no, I want to get back together with you, and I want to have a family with you and my son, and we're going to do this together.
And what's the correct way to go and make up to your ex-wife, who you know you've been abusive emotionally to for years, who you ran out on, and left her with this son, and treat like shit all the time? That's right, pretend to kill yourself.
And then ask her to jump out the window, because it's funny. I
Put
guess.
a trampoline there.
I guess. And then they get back together, and then Frank sees a therapist. And it's funny, because he went to therapy. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you go, wait, do they get that he does need therapy? Oh, wait, they actually got him to therapy. This kind of makes sense. I think that they get... And then it's like, oh, no, they think this is a joke. Oh, it's
No, it's a
punchline.
punchline.
Oh,
it's a punchline.
Oh,
one thing you'll
boy.
notice during this whole conversation, there was a dog, technically.
It's on the cover. It's called Down Dog.
So often during the scene, and not often, like once every 30 minutes of this 90-minute movie, a bulldog shows up in a scene where Frank is being like depressed,
yes,
and drinking a lot or eating ice cream on a couch,
drinking alone. Yep.
And those are the only scenes the dog shows up. And then at the end of the movie, Frank says something like, or no, the therapist says something
because he
Frank.
brings them into the therapy session.
Yeah,
he has
the dog's in the therapy session. The therapist is like, wow, I wish you wouldn't bring your dog next time. And I had the same reaction to the movie. Because we wouldn't have seen this otherwise. And
Don't
I would
bring
have been
the
better.
dog. Don't put the dog on the cover, you motherfuckers. Don't trick us like this. This is some goddamn bullshit. Fuck. It's called Down Dog. It has a dog on it. Gah!
Anyway, let's rate the dog, I guess. There's a bulldog. I know the dog's name. They mentioned it once. That is Alan.
Alan.
That dog is cute. It's very chubby. It sits on the couch and is clearly not a trained animal.
At one point, he gives it a very good pat on the head and scratch behind the ear.
And I have to give that dog a 0 out of 10, because that dog was not aware enough to be in a better film. And you could do better.
Mm-hmm.
You can do better, dog.
This
Down, dog.
Fire
Down.
your agent out of 10, dog.
You fucked up. This is going to end your career, Alan.
I'm sorry, Alan. We can't have you in any more films. And that's Down Dog. Sometimes I get a hit, like Easy Money. And sometimes you know, when you swing for the fences, sometimes you hit a home run. And sometimes you swing the bat around, spin 3 times, hit yourself in the face, and impale yourself on the broken pieces of your bat as you fall down.
Yeah, part of the problem with finding lost media or media that is not well known, including this 200 viewed film / 9 viewed interview movie
that we paid money
to see that aired probably once at a Sundance Film Festival and then immediately went to streaming. Is maybe there's a reason it wasn't well known. And sometimes you find diamonds in the rough, and sometimes you find rough in the dog movie.
Sometimes you find a rough cut.
Hey,
which is also our social media, where you can find us on Blue Sky, our co-host, where we're rough cuts, or you can go on our Patreon, where we're rough cuts, or you can email us at roughcutscast@gmail.com. If you give us a movie and tell us we should see it, we'll probably do it, no matter what it is, even if it's Borderlands, and we have to pay like $25 in the theaters to do it, because I hate myself, and I don't reflect on that at all.
But you know what? Maybe it's the movies that are the problem.
I think that it might be the movies. I've talked to my therapist, and she says that I should self-reflect, and I've reflected that I think that the movies cause me a lot of grief.
I'm pretty sure it's the movies.
The movies
hey, you want to
really
go see another movie?
Issues.
Yeah, go watch a movie. Yeah.
I've heard that Beetlejuice is in theaters.
Can you not bring your dog next time?